Welcome into another edition of New Track Record Podcast from the WELT Studios. Caleb Hatch, Justin Kinney with you. And Justin, we have a lot to dive into, and that's not including a race to recap.
Man, it's good that we record this thing late in the week, right? This is one of those weeks where it's a good thing we held off a bit because we have some news.
Yes, we're recording Friday evening? I know we debate around.
Oh, this goes back to our
it is
afternoon,
5:41 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So is this afternoon or evening?
This is afternoon. In 19 minutes and goes into evening. So I would say we're recording Thursday afternoon into evening.
With that, so the big news of the day coming out Thursday morning, IndyCar and Fox announced that Fox Sports has acquired 1/3 interest in Penske Entertainment. This includes, obviously, the IndyCar series as part of the deal, valued at the Wall Street Journal, putting it at between $125 and $135 million as part of the deal. Really no further interviews from Penske or Fox officials beyond the quotes in the press release, but obviously a major shot in the arm for Penske Entertainment, obviously, as well for the IndyCar series to go along with it.
There's so many angles to this, and we'll address every angle that we possibly can in a meaningful time frame, so we're not here until close. I don't even know when the library closes.
I think 8 o'clock.
Yeah, we don't want to be here till 8. Anyway, initially, there's a lot of excitement here. Right? I mean, I think if you boil it down to what this is Fox, who, as we've spoken about before, made a tremendous investment in IndyCar. You could argue an investment that IndyCar hasn't earned by its ratings previous. And this just reinforces that belief in the IndyCar series. Now, we still don't, and we may not for a while, know exactly what this means. Does Fox now have any say in things like new car, schedule, stuff like that? Is it pure? I don't think this is a purely capital gains type thing where Fox is all of a sudden going to invest $100 million in the series. That's not good. So what does this really mean? And I think you and I are, as we've done research throughout today and read stories, is we're still waiting for that expert to tell us what this really means, other than Fox is very bullish and continues to be bullish on the IndyCar series. And as we've said before, anybody who questioned Fox's relationship with IndyCar even before this was nuts. And now you feel like even more so. This is a life preserver to IndyCar that seemingly gets bigger and bigger with every new addition of investment. And we didn't expect this. So as we record, I still think there's a lot of questions, but I think you can boil it down to this is a media network, and we're seeing this more and more between networks and sports and leagues, is that they are investing into the IndyCar series, want it to succeed. It's not just a simple broadcasting partner anymore. It's more than that.
Yeah, what we do know from the press release, so I mentioned the cash infusion, also confirming a multi-year extension of the TV deal, so at least through 2029, maybe 2030 or beyond. And the details that were released in terms of what this means with this partnership. On the release, they said innovative and industry-leading racing and entertainment events, hyper-engaged digital strategy, and immersive content focus, which, to piggyback off of that, the Forbes article that Bruce Martin wrote, who covers IndyCar, mentioned that IndyCar's generated 1 million new social followers, which is a huge deal, obviously. The other bullet points: enhanced promotion and star-building opportunities for NTT IndyCar Series drivers. And then, obviously, Fox Sports with the media rights as well. So this tells me they will not only participate in terms of promotion and marketing, but also be engaged with what they do digitally with IndyCar and helping that grow, which I think that's growing, as we mentioned, but also with promotion and new events. I think the innovative and industry-leading racing and entertainment events, I think that bullet point in the release is perhaps the most fascinating one.
And it's still, to me, like even that, the bullet points, I'm going, okay, so what does that mean exactly? Is Fox all of a sudden going to fully finance new events? Are they going to adopt a promotion aspect of certain events, maybe new events? I mean, even in the press release with Roger Penske, at the end says, quote, Eric Shanks, among others, quote, are committed to our success and will bring incredible energy and innovation to IndyCar. So innovation is the word. So what are we talking in terms of presenting the series in an innovative way?
Which we've seen a lot of innovation just in how it's been presented this season on Fox.
Correct. You mentioned the extension of the TV deal. It said nothing about, is it an extension of the all Fox TV deal? Is it just an extension with Fox? Does Fox look at IndyCar and say, we'd like to get it to a place to where we can put races on the new Fox Sports stream? I think, quite frankly, the days of all sessions of lights and IndyCar on over-the-air Fox is going to go away as soon as next year. Not saying all of them are going to be on the new streaming platform, but I can bet some of them will be, particularly maybe lights. So we'll see. So even in the statements in this release, there's so many questions. I have another question. How did this come about? Was
Fox reached out to IndyCar?
Is that what happened? Is that Fox reached? Because we've wondered, there's always rumors about, is there a series, is the series potentially for sale? Is a piece for sale? So, man, how that came about, and it's pretty wild. I mean, as long as Eric Shanks, I think, is Fox Sports CEO, it's going to be uber positive for IndyCar. We both agreed it's tremendously positive. We're just not sure exactly what it all means,
and that's the biggest question, right? The press release doesn't give a lot of specifics,
nor is Penske or Fox talking.
Yes.
To anybody.
There have been no media requests granted after this news was dropped this morning, around 9 a.m. Eastern time. And obviously it's not just news for IndyCar and motorsport in the racing world, but I mean, this is huge news. I mean, it's in the Wall Street Journal. That's the story. It's picked up by plenty of other sources. I got another email from a news site that follows stuff in sports and news media. That was the headline for their 5 p.m. daily email. So this is a big deal. And I think when the partnership with Fox started for IndyCar, I mean, Eric Shanks, who's the CEO and executive producer for Fox Sports, he's from Brazil, Indiana, grew up going to the Indy 500. He got it, and you're like, okay, that's cool as long as he's in charge. But, could something change down the line? And yes, something still could change, but where we're at right now, they've already extended. They haven't even finished year one. They're investing heavily in Penske Entertainment in terms of being 1/3 owners. This is massive for IndyCar and the future. We've already seen what Fox can do from a marketing perspective. The big number at St. Pete's, the driver ads with Pato O'Ward and Alex Palou and Joseph Newgarden, and obviously the highest viewed Indy 500 since 2008, which, if you think about it, that's when the split ended. That was first year of reunification for IndyCar, and it's the best viewership since then. So there's a lot of momentum. Yes, it's not perfect. We talk every week about needing to promote, needing exciting new events, which they've kind of half checked the box, getting the schedule fixed. But all these things, I think Fox is aware. I think IndyCar is aware. Now this feels like a legitimate investment. And whether or not Penske was willing to make this investment or not, it doesn't matter now, because now there's a partner on board who's going to help IndyCar get to where Fox Sports and Penske Entertainment believe it can finally go.
Yes, and that's all huge. And I think it was one of our followers on Twitter, you can mention, or X, I guess, is talking about take Zach Brown, for example, about how many times does he bring up added investment into the series and excitement into the series? And that's what he's looking at. He looks at pure value for McLaren and says, when the value runs out in IndyCar for us, we'll no longer be around. This, I think, really cements the interest in growing the sport. It is woefully behind Formula One and NASCAR in terms of visibility, obviously, media rights, right? And the overall value of the teams and series. I mean, I saw today, what was the value of, Aston Martin is like, of Aston Martin F1 team is like $3 billion. Billion. B. They sold 1/3 of this series and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for $130 or $130 million, effectively 125 to 135 million. That's not a lot of money. So in the broad spectrum of things. So Fox wants an ROI. You don't spend that much money unless you want a return on investment somewhere. And Fox is confident that they can be a big part of increasing value all around with IndyCar, the series, the teams, the events, everything, as IndyCar looks to try to close the gap with F1 and NASCAR.
So a few things. Fox is going to look, this is from the Wall Street Journal story, snippet that Adam Stern of Sports Business Journal pulled, and he also had a good story as well. They'll look beyond television production and work with Penske on new events, more sponsorship opportunities, boosting attendance at the track. And you brought up Zach Brown, and he said after this news, a big step forward for IndyCar today as Fox Sports deepens their investment in the series. This kind of commitment shows just how much potential our series has for long-term growth. I'm looking forward to this partnership taking things to the next level. And then finally, Nathan Brown pointing out Michael Andretti, all the flack that he got for saying publicly that, where's the investment? What's going to happen? And in saying that this is the quote back then, about a year and a half ago, I told him, as in Michael telling Roger, why don't you sell part of the series to somebody, use that money as an equity stake? You still keep that control, but take that money and invest it. But he doesn't want any partners. Well, now suddenly there's a partner, and suddenly it feels like, yes, it's not just the Fox Sports momentum, but this partnership in terms of TV, but this partnership, it feels like there's finally some series momentum and not just Indy 500 related when it comes to on track.
You bring up a good point about that money. Now what do you do with that money? I mean, Roger Penske hasn't gotten to where he is as a businessman without reinvesting investments. And so even if he just takes half of that money and says, okay, the other, we're going to pay the lawn care bill for Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I joke because it seems like all the money goes into IMS, but let's say $70 million cash infusion into the series. If you took half of that money or, 2/3 of it, can go a long way. And so when we talk about either it's investing in strong promotions at individual racetracks, especially the ones that IndyCar promotes within itself, taking chances on new events, right? Maybe they have to front, let's say, $20 million for Mexico City. It's much easier to do that when you have $130, $140 million in cash equity all of a sudden available. So I think that's a storyline to watch as well. Is this money just pocketed by Penske Entertainment, or is it then aggressively reinvested into opportunities? And also, maybe Fox is like, here, we're going to give you $130 million, but here's what we'd like to see you do with that money. We'll help you do this stuff, but here's what we'd like to do. Or you give us some of this money and back, and this is what we'll do in terms of promotions, stuff like that. I mean, the opportunities, I guess, and potential is endless. It's not as much money as you'd like it to be when you're talking about 1/3 of the series and 1/3 of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but still is a lot of money.
Yes, and Fox sees it as a way to boost IndyCar. Like, they're all in. We thought they were all in from a TV side, right, before with the TV deal, but this goes beyond that, and they see IndyCar as a growth opportunity where can you imagine having this thought a year ago before Fox was announced? I mean,
Right.
Fox was announced, last summer, right? So we go back basically a year and change before the Fox deal. We're not looking at, a broadcast partner investing now. They've done this before. They own a majority stake of the Big Ten Network, 61%. For a long time, it was like 48 or 49, and then they've actually grown that investment. They own the United Football League, which I know people are going to roll their eyes at, but that is their property. Also, something that was interesting that Jeff Gluck, who covers NASCAR, pointed out, a writer for The Athletic, said one reason why Fox would buy 1/3 of IndyCar, from a different story, but Fox learned a lesson with UFC, which it helped create into a multi-billion-dollar business, only to see it leave for ESPN. Fox doesn't want to make that mistake again. So they see, hey, we can get on the ground floor for a pretty cheap rate compared to other sports, right? You can't do that this big of a stake, and if you do this with the NFL, you're not even getting 10%, if that. So this is, you can have a pretty large share. You're an influence in the room, and yes, Fox isn't handing over the cash just to tell Penske, hey, go do with this what you want. It's a partnership now, but I think that's a good thing. I think we're seeing an opportunity to really grow, to fix the schedule, to promote the drivers, and not just 3 drivers, but a lot of drivers, and to see where this can really go.
You look at UFC, and its net worth now is over $11 billion with a B. I don't know if, I do know. IndyCar's never going to be worth that much. But if it can grow in the way that UFC has, and Fox was a partner and let that get away, I think it bought into it right when it was on Spike, and then it went to Fox, I think. So, but then you look at the UFL too, and he's like, okay, that can maybe be a negative story in terms of it hasn't really raised the profile of the UFL. In fact, I thought I heard a couple of days ago, half of their teams are expecting to move or looking to have new homes, and they only have 8 teams now. So you hope that this is more impactful on the UFC side than the UFL side, not even in terms of money, but just in terms of boost and where the sport could go. I don't expect it to reach the worldwide popularity that Ultimate Fighting has. But at the same time, Fox isn't out here just throwing money around willy-nilly to anything and everything, right? So this is a big deal. And like I said, and like we've kind of said, we're not exactly sure how it's a big deal, but it is a big deal.
It's a big deal, and maybe this is how these deals are going to work moving forward. It's not just that you're the TV and streaming, for that matter, partner for a sports league, but also that you're a part owner, and that's the cheap way to go in on the ground floor, as opposed to just bidding for rights every 3 to 5 years, depending on a league's package. This is how you do it. And we've seen the NFL kind of flirt with ESPN wanting to buy, like a minority stake or whatever. And I think ESPN's looking to buy NFL Network, things like that. So this is maybe a cheap way for Fox to do it, to build something, to build it quickly. They have the promotion ability to do it. We've seen the results, right? St. Pete and Indy 500 are the highlights, but also people actually know Pato Ward and Alex Palou and Joseph Newgarden, at least if you're watching TV and have a curiosity factor. And that worked for St. Pete. It obviously worked for the 500. Yes, the schedule has not worked in terms of the spacing to really grow, but we've seen them take big swings, moving Gateway to Sunday night primetime, getting over 1 million viewers for that. So we're seeing results early, and with Fox having that 1/3 stake in not just IndyCar, but also IMS with Penske Entertainment, to me, this is nothing but positive news.
And I think for people too is just be ready for a different approach to what IndyCar has done for a long time, even since the acquisition by Roger Penske and Penske Corp of the series and IMS. Fox is in this. They spend a considerable amount of money because they want to make money. They look at IndyCar and say, we can buy here and make money within this series. I'd be fascinated. We haven't gotten this in a long time in terms of not even not even specifics, but even general of how much the 500 subsidizes the rest of the season, or an IMS subsidizes the rest of the season. Is that gap closing? Has it closed now with this acquisition? But I also think that Fox, we don't know this for sure, but okay, they're a minority partner essentially, but how much power do they have to say, hey, we'd like to see this? Maybe it's a all-star event in the middle of the season. People are scared if you throw around the word playoffs, but maybe there's something that leads into the latter half of the season to make it more exciting. I don't know. I think we have to be prepared for maybe some efforts through Fox to try some non-traditional things to get more eyes on the product. It may not be things that everybody agrees with, but how much have we said IndyCar needs to take chances and try things?
Now they have the cash infusion.
And now they have the cash infusion to try things.
I'm not worried about playoffs. It's a NASCAR thing. Fox's NASCAR package is at the start of the season, not the end. And the NASCAR playoffs weren't a Fox thing. They were actually an ESPN thing originally back in 2004 with the Chase. So I know that's where people go to, and people were worried that there'd be Duggar on the TV broadcast for Fox and IndyCar. Completely different. I think all the people who were stressed about that, in my opinion, were stressed about nothing.
We got Cletus. We didn't get
Duggar. Yeah, but that's different. That's the Fox Sports mascot overall. So I feel okay about that, but I just think this is different. And for the first time since the split happened, I get you had reunification in 2008, but those were two entities that were struggling coming together. This is a entity, at least in terms of Penske Entertainment, what they have at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is thriving, has been thriving for several years now, and IndyCar, which is the best that it's been since the split, right, in terms of the business sense. This, to me, feels more like IndyCar pre-split. And you have a TV partner locked in. It's not several TV partners, but you have one TV partner locked in, at least through, you would think, 2029 and maybe even further. You have a cash infusion. This could, if done correctly, take off like a rocket ship, or we could just stay where we're at. But either way, IndyCar has the cash to try something for the first time since the split and to really go after making this and compete with NASCAR again for the first time in 25, 30 years.
I think one thing, too, is while the 500 was tremendous in terms of rating, and the further away we get from that, I think the easier it is to gloss over it, of which we shouldn't. But I think when we looked at the race-to-race numbers, of which we keep really good track of with our very visually appealing graphs that we put out on social media, you could say IndyCar hasn't lived up to what we thought was possible. As team owners said before the season, you'd like to see them flirt with $1 million for every race, for a couple races they have. But I think this is exciting too, because the ratings or lack thereof week to week in year one with Fox seemingly has not scared away Fox.
No, not at all.
I think maybe the longer we went, maybe Fox is going, yeah, you know what? We put all this money into year one trying to hype this up. Ratings haven't been where we thought they could be, or maybe they are where they thought they could be year one, but they invested a lot of money before the series even started, or the season even started, going back to the Super Bowl and even before. And Fox could have easily said this point of the season, yeah, we just have expected more out of year one, and maybe said, maybe after next year, maybe we're starting to put some races on FS1 and FS2. The ratings have not scared Fox away one iota. In fact, whatever they have seen this year, and maybe this was in their mind even before or during the acquisition of the broadcast rights last year, whatever they've seen, they've liked enough to then go, you know what? Here's another $130 million we're buying into this series.
It's a lot of money, and it was shocking to see the news. I'm still shocked now, but man, all the criticism, right, about the lack of marketing, promotions, and investment in the series, there's no excuse now. That's what it comes down to. There's absolutely no excuse.
No, and I think this caught everybody off guard. You look at the main quote-unquote beat writers for IndyCar. It wasn't like this was released, the press release went out, and then Marshall Pruitt of Racer has a deep article, Nathan Brown of Indy Star has a deep article. This caught everybody by surprise. Great job by IndyCar and Fox to keep this under wraps and not even comment further, at least for now. So however long this was in the works, it was kept very tightly under wraps. And it's been a very interesting day as this initially came out. And we still are kind of trying to glean more information about what this could and will mean for the future of IndyCar and Fox.
I also think it's helpful in attracting new sponsors, new key series partners like engine manufacturers. Look, this isn't going to hurt the case for Honda to stay, right? I mean, this is only going to help if you get that much new investment in the series. We're seeing events that are some that are strong, some that need work. I mean, we'll talk about Laguna Seca. It was the best crowd since IndyCar's return in 2019 at Laguna Seca. Ticket sales up approximately 20%, according to MarshallPruitt.racer.com. So there's a lot of good things going on with IndyCar. I think it is easy to get into the weeds week to week, race to race, and when you're kind of waiting for that big thing. But this is that big thing.
Yes.
This is one of those big things we've been waiting for, is investment into the series, and not just investment into Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which this is included, but investment into the series. And it's a good day if you're an IndyCar fan.
This is the excitement we needed towards the end of the season,
yes,
right? Because the points race sure as hell hasn't given us any excitement.
For sure. And I guess, I don't know, any final thoughts from you on this topic?
I'm looking forward to learning more about what's the potential here for Fox and IndyCar. I can't wait to see new ideas, new things being tried, new proposals, just all this stuff that we've asked for that Penske Corp has just refused to invest in. And yes, Long Beach Grand Prix acquisition was a big thing, right? But
that was basically handpicked for them.
We lacked here's a billionaire owner that just is very, very stingy in what he wants to invest in. And now you have a network that is so confident in this product that it gave IndyCar $130 million for effectively a seat at the table. They don't have any majority ownership. They don't have a majority stake. They're at the table. And I think that's exciting because, I mean, when's the last time? I don't think you could say there's never been a time in IndyCar and open wheel history in North America where a media entity has made an investment like this into the series. It's reasonably new, I get it, but when's the last time IndyCar had a media partner this invested? And that was even before this deal, right? And now you're just adding a significant piece to an already pretty darn good deal for IndyCar having all its races on network. So it's just it's going to be exciting to see how this all plays out. IndyCar yet again has a big opportunity to make a big splash, and we'll see what ideas they come up with.
Fox signed on originally with a 3-year TV deal, all races on network, all practices and qualifying on either FS1 or FS2, same with the series formerly known as Indy Lights. And we thought, wow, this is incredible. And now Fox says, okay, that 25 to 30 million that we're paying per year to broadcast the series and all the sessions and along with lights and all the other assets, we saw enough value in this. We got in, at least they say, we got in on the cheap. We can grow this. We've already grown it substantially in year one. They're up 31% compared to last year overall. Obviously, the Indy 500 was up a lot more, 41%, and that's boosting the number. We know this. But they saw it as a way to get in on the ground floor, so to speak, and really grow IndyCar rapidly. And I think that's what their goal is going to be, and hopefully those are the results that we as fans get to see over the next couple of years.
Exciting times here, and here we thought we were just heading towards the end of the season with a dud of a championship race, which is fine because the dominance we've seen out of Alex Palou, you and I can both appreciate. But this is very much an injection right into the veins of feeling good about the future of IndyCar.
No doubt. And speaking of Alex Palou, well, he gets the win, the Java House Grand Prix of Monterey at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca back on Sunday. Dominant performance. No surprise. He got the pole. I picked him to win, and you picked Herta, right? And Herta was third, and Palou was first. Go figure. The two guys who've dominated at this track since IndyCar returned pretty much dominated the show for the most part. Christian Lundgaard snuck in there for a second, but no surprise. We take a look at our three things in this race. I think as Palou gets his 8th win of the season, which is the most since Sebastian Bourdais in 2007 in the final year of the Champ Car World Series. I think my first takeaway in all of this, what we saw on Sunday, unfortunately, is race control. And I see the VK incident, him being caught in the gravel, and then Palou and Herta being able to pit, before this kind of change in procedure, that would have been an automatic yellow, right? And I get that they added the electronic marshalling system with the lights around courses, and they've kind of changed how stuff is done. They've added local yellows. That didn't used to be a thing several years ago. That's new. But the VK1 judgment call, I still disagreed with it at the time. But the Ericsson one, there's no excuse. He spun. He was given time to try to restart the car, and I think Marshall Pruitt counted to like over a minute and a half in terms of the delay before the yellow was thrown. Yes, he's off the racing line, but it's blind going uphill. So drivers, well, he's on driver's right. Drivers don't know he's there, period. I'm sure they're aware of a local yellow, but this was, in terms of safety, IndyCar and race control, which is Kyle Novak, Ari Leindyke, and Max Pappas, are absolutely playing with fire, and I thought it was absolutely ridiculous and unsafe. That is my biggest takeaway of the race. Like, that should not happen. That was unacceptable.
Well, I think this is just the new precedent for IndyCar, and this is how they're
playing with fire.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you until something happens. But I just, especially the Ericsson issue, and of course Marshall Pruitt had an article, and he's asking Colton Herta and Christian Lundgaard about it. Well,
they benefited.
Yeah, that's like, well, of course they were happy with it, right?
Ericsson did not have as good of things to say about the incident, and rightfully so.
I mean, he's just sitting there.
He's stuck.
Ready to be just hit if something happens, right?
Yeah. I just thought this was a huge miss on what was otherwise a good event. The crowd looked good. This is the first time Laguna really looked like it had any ambiance. The podium celebration was cool with the crowd there. There were a lot of positive things to take away. But unfortunately, this is the thing that absolutely stuck out when it was all said and done, that you have a car stuck on track that has nowhere to go.
Colton Herta, after the race, said to Marshall Pruitt, quote, "I think it's not fair to be one of the faster ones and qualify well and have your day screwed by a yellow." That's racing. That's racing. You know what also sucks? Just getting hit from behind, like on lap 1 when Felix Rosenqvist just got taken out. That's racing. A engine blowing.
Rinus VeeKay getting punted by Scott McLaughlin. That's racing.
Yeah, I mean, that's racing. So there's a certain element of luck too, and part of the luck is not getting caught out via sequence in pit sequences, right? So you're right, and we've said it before. You're playing with fire with this stuff, and all it takes is one mistake, one not throwing the yellow and something happening, and unfortunately, it's an inevitability at some point. You just hope it gets rectified, but it's a dangerous precedent that IndyCar has set, and they like you said, it's dangerous. It is dangerous, but Colton Herta could just, that quote kind of made me roll my eyes. It's like, well, yeah, of course it's not fair, but racing isn't fair. So to me, it was just kind of a silly article. Of course, you're going to quote the drivers that benefit from it, so it was just kind of silly. if you're going to talk to Christian Lundgaard and Colton Herta, then you better quote Marcus Ericsson in the story too, of which they didn't. So to me, it was just kind of absurd to try to rationalize these moves, because it's not fair and it's dangerous.
It's very dangerous, and I guess that's my ultimate takeaway. Marcus Ericsson said, "Happy to not get hit whilst sitting at a blind spot on the track for 3 laps, ...
And that's the big thing, like a blind turn, a blind part of the racetrack. It's just silly.
Absolutely silly. And a lot of people chiming in, Simon Pagenaud chiming in, insane to see how long it takes race control in IndyCar to throw a yellow, tag the IndyCar account. I mean, there were drivers and former drivers upset on social media. It wasn't just fans upset about it. This was egregious on race control's part, and I hope that if that's the way it is, good luck. You're playing with fire, and something bad's going to eventually happen. And for a series that is so forward-focused on safety, this was not it. Right? What's your first takeaway?
Well, I just think in closing that one is you're putting a lot of faith into people respecting those local yellows. And you better be darn sure everybody knows. And I don't know, maybe is there something visual that can come up that, or I don't know, local yellows, they started doing that because they didn't want to throw a full yellow, but at the same time, a stalled car on track, or at least even off the racing line, but in a position where if somebody else spins or loses it, they're going to get hit, is very, very dangerous. My number one, let's talk, you mentioned it too, about Laguna Seca, and just the feeling of this event that for the first time, and this is another racing event that IndyCar just loves to kind of mess around with where they put it on the schedule, is how about just putting this race and firmly putting it at the end of July and promoting it and building it, because it was a very healthy crowd, not just in the crowd, but there was a fair amount of campers and everything at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, I noticed the campers on one of the hillsides.
Yeah, that was just usually barren.
The front stretch grandstands, which granted aren't very big and usually just peppered with people, just a few dots. It looked to be maybe 75% full at the start.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a sight to behold, because usually it's just a handful of people there, and it's not a good spot, mind you, but people wanted to get a view of the start of this race, and the crowd looked good. The event had a buzz. I mean, Marshall Pruitt wrote about it on Racer, saying Friday there felt like there was an uptick, and this is his home track, and Saturday was big. Like, it was noticeable, in the merchandise sales, it was noticeable, and feet at the track, before even Sunday, the drivers, mentioning that they noticed it. So it's a big deal for an event that we feel like is kind of teetering. You look at Toronto, not because of ticket sales, but just because of encroachments on the track and scheduling. You look at Portland because of ticket sales, and then Laguna, also because of ticket sales, is always kind of some of those, along with Iowa, obviously, being in danger. But man, this was a giant stamp of approval by IndyCar fans in Northern California.
And credit Laguna Seca, too, because there's been some uncertainty with that track for a while, and they've put money into facility upgrades and infrastructure and overall crowd experience type things, let alone promotions. And it's also a racetrack, too, that since IndyCar, I just feel like when IndyCar went back to Watkins Glen, IndyCar was at Sonoma, and it was just kind of like playing out the string. This is what Watkins Glen is. This is what Sonoma is. There's particularly Watkins Glen, because it still is enormous potential for IndyCar at Watkins Glen. But at Sonoma, you just felt like they were there just to be there. There was no real effort to increase the crowd there and the experience at places like Sonoma. And that's why we've kind of talked about the back end of the IndyCar schedule is lacking a lot of excitement. But credit to Laguna Seca. And credit to IndyCar. And, is there a significant amount of credit we need to give to Java House, too, as well, for maybe upping that promotional budget by being a title sponsor? All of it was great. It was estimated 20% rise in ticket sales prior to the start of the race. So it's not counting day of. So kudos all around. And it bodes well for the future of Laguna Seca, which we've not said very much since IndyCar's return to Laguna Seca in 2019, right? All of a sudden you get one good event And all of a sudden you feel much more positive. Like, look at Gateway this year. This time last year, we're going, is Gateway going away? And then you have one good race there with a good crowd, and who knows, that may change in a couple of weeks or next year. But you have one good race with a lot of people and a lot of positive vibes, and you feel a lot better about a venue. And I think that's where we're at with Laguna Seca, much as we were with Gateway immediately after the race earlier this season.
Feels good indeed to have an event that felt like it was always on the chopping block get firm footing for the first time, really, since it's returned on the schedule.
And how about Portland? Let's do it at Portland. Let's go. Why not?
Why not?
Right?
Let's continue. Let's hope that momentum continues. My second takeaway, Pato Award. Yes, race day didn't go as expected. He fell back to finish in fourth after starting second. Got passed by Colton Herta on the opening lap. But you look at his season, and historically, this has been a championship level season. I think what Alex Palou is just so impressive, it's overshadowing some of the numbers. For Aaron McLaren, 11 podiums as a team, and I get it, Pato was not on the podium, but 11 podiums for that team, a new team season record. This stat from Beyond the Flag, Pato Award averaging more points per race this year, 33.5, and Alex Palou did en route to his 2021, which is removing Indy 500 double points, which you kind of have to do based on the scoring, which was 31.8, and 2004 championship years, which was 32.0. And yet, 121-point deficit with 3 races to go. I mean, Pato Award's been outstanding. And then Nathan Brown with this stat. If you're Pato Award, I think you would have entered July taking runs of 5th, 1st, 5th, 1st, 4th. 2 wins, all top 5s. And yet, he was outscored. Palou finished 12th, had a 12th. The championship leader still outscored Pato by 10 in July. I mean, look, what Pato is doing, consistency as the best worst finish, right, which you always talk about in terms of winning a championship. And his worst finish on the year, I believe, is what, like a 12th?
I think he had a 17th.
He did, okay, so he did have a 17th. So, but he has one of the best worst finishes, I think, of anyone on the grid.
I think he has the best worst finish, I want to say.
So he's doing all the things, right, to win a championship, multiple race wins, the best worst finish, consistency. I mean, 5 straight top 5s or better through July, and yet you're down 121 points. I mean, he's had a phenomenal year.
Consider this. Last year, Alex Palou won the championship with 544 points. With 3 races to go this year, he has 590 points. He has 46 more points with 3 races left than what he won the championship with last year. It's been a generational season for Alex Palou. Every 30 years, you have one of these. And unfortunately, Pato Award is having his season in one of those generational seasons for Alex Palou. But I think we entered the season saying, can Alex Palou do what it takes to become a consistent IndyCar championship contender? He was 3rd place in 2021, and then since then 7th, 4th, and 5th. So the more we got away from 2021, we said, well, maybe that's the albatross. Maybe that's the apex of what Pato Award can be in this series. But I think this season, despite him not going to be winning the championship, I think has shown that not just Pato Award, Caleb, but McLaren is putting themselves in a position to be a championship contender in this series going forward, at least with Pato Award. And then don't sleep, too, on Christian Lundgaard being 5th in this championship as well. 2 McLaren drivers finishing in the top 5 in the championship would be significant for McLaren.
Huge step forward, and Lundgaard has not won a race, which I'm actually surprised by. But
I mean, we've 2 seconds, 3 thirds. I think.
He's been outstanding in year 1. I mean, Alexander Rossi really struggled in year 1 with McLaren for perspective. So I think it's been a big jump for that team. They're the number 1 Chevy team this year. They have 2 wins. Yeah. Penske has none. They've really taken a step forward, and I think Pato Award is back to championship form, and I think that drive is there. I think he also is kind of firmly settled in IndyCar. F1's maybe no longer that distraction or kind of, you're looking off to the side like, hey, could this still happen? He's locked in on IndyCar, and I think the results are showing it.
It absolutely is.
All right, what's your second?
My number 2, and let's talk about Callum Ilott, because it wasn't so long ago that we looked at Callum Ilott and said, man, you expect more out of this guy at Prema. But an 8th and a 6th the last 2 races. He's had, over the last 6 races, a 13th and a 15th in addition to an 8th and a 6th. So we've seen Callum Ilott, I think, in the second half of the season really show his potential, and also, I think, show Prema's potential as well. And when you look at silly season, of which, the longer we go without much in the way of rumors, it's going to be a relatively quiet silly season, I think. I mean, barring something crazy, I look at Prema and said, just bring them back next year. Ilott and Schwartzman, let's go, round 2. And I think maybe as recently as a month ago, I don't think that was something we'd say based on Callum Ilott's performance. But best finish of the season, and I think it was the best Prema finish of the season. It was,
yeah, back-to-back.
Back-to-back.
Ilott's had the best Prema finish, 8th at Toronto, and now 6th at Laguna Seca.
And I know it's a hypothetical, or it doesn't mean much because they're not eligible for the leader circle anyway, but if Prema could finish the season strong enough, they could technically have 2 drivers above the leader circle cutoff, which I think would be very impressive for a year 1 team. They're not going to get the $1 million, but right now you look at it, and the 83 of Ilott, right? 83 is Ilott?
I always get it confused, I'll be honest.
Me too. Let's see. The 83 is Schwartzman, of course, because I had a 50% chance I was going to get it wrong. But the 83 of Schwartzman is just 4 points below the cutoff, and Callum Ilott is now just 9 points below the cutoff. So they're not going to get the money regardless, but I think it would be very impressive if Prema could finish at least 1 and maybe 2 guys above that cutoff in year 1.
And I think it's possible. I mean, we're talking about a rookie driver in that Rookie of the Year battle. Just 4 points separate Schwartzman and Louis Foster. I think that's going to be something worth mentioning and watching down the stretch, because, I mean, that means something to the drivers and the teams, and I'm pretty sure there's a monetary reward
and a
for that as well.
Trophy as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, keep your eyes on Prema and particularly Callum Ilott with how the final 3 races go. What about your number 3?
My number 3. Let's talk about Team Penske, because...
Are they still racing in the season?
They are.
Oh, okay.
And Joseph Newgarden had, what was that, his best road and street course qualifying result of the season, or second best?
And was up there for most of the race, top 5, top 6.
Faded back.
Faded late.
But this was the first race where it wasn't a complete disaster in quite some time, all across the board. Will Power has been consistent for them throughout the season. Started 5th, finished 7th. Scott McLaughlin moved up to finish 10th. Newgarden did fade back, finish 11th, but normally we're talking about 2 or 3 Penske cars 20th or worse.
True.
So this was a step in the right direction where it felt more like a normal weekend.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, you have 2 drivers that started 4th and 5th, respectively, in Newgarden and Power, and the best they could bring home was a 7th.
Well,
Power.
More of a normal weekend in terms of what we've seen compared to the last couple months.
Yeah.
This was a step in the right direction, and maybe we'll see a rebound late this season. Look, with all the team changes and leadership, you can't tell me that hasn't had an impact on the results on track.
Yeah,
it obviously has. So, but this was a step forward for this team, and I get it. The results aren't eye-popping, but we're talking about them finishing the race, which sadly has not been the case of late.
Which is
for all 3 drivers.
Our expectations have been so down that when they're actually able to bring, like you said, all 3 cars home in respectable positions, you're kind of surprised. But I think this team is they just want to get the final 3 races done and get to the offseason.
Get to 2026, completely reset and regroup. And do you kind of wonder, like, is this a one-off? Because Penske has a bad season seemingly every so many years, right? They really struggled in the late 90s. But this is the worst it's been really since that era. And you just wonder, is this a one-off, like a complete bloop, or will this continue as Rogers, completely away from the team outside of making, the top leader hirings and firings, as we've seen. Is this going to be a trend moving forward? They're not going to be the same team? Is this they need to inject a younger driver lineup, which I think is silly because Will Power is having the best season of the three drivers? Or is this just, okay, they had a bad year, a lot of fluke things happened, and they'll be fine for 26?
Well, I think that's going to be the question for Team Penske internally, because you could say, we've already seen obviously some changes. How many changes do they make going into next season? I'm not necessarily talking about drivers, because I think the best plan would be bring all three back, particularly Will Power. But how many changes do you make in your engineering, in tech, right, in your development and all that stuff? Because it is an army at Team Penske. If you replace more people, then it's going to take longer for that new group to gel. And that's kind of what we're seeing with the new faces on the pit stands and who's in charge at Team Penske on the IndyCar side. So I think it'll be fascinating to watch just how big of a teardown there is at Team Penske, more than there has been. Or if it's just chalking it up to it was one of those years. I feel like it's just one of those years. But I also know that it takes a while to build rapport and camaraderie with new people in new positions, especially when it was unforeseen, like we've seen at Team Penske. I think this team just needs an off season to get everything squared away, because they hit the ground from race one. They were struggling, and then it really struggled in May when you make the dismissals. But I just think they just need time away from the track to regroup. You rarely say that about Team Penske. I'm not saying they're going to come out and win half of the races next year like we've been accustomed to seeing, at least them and plus Ganassi. But I also think they get, if you ask me right now, what's the over-under on Penske wins next year, I'd set it at 3.5, and I might take the over.
No one expected this season to go the way it has. And really, it wasn't until the attenuator gate issue in Indy 500 qualifying that things really went off the rails, right? So,
yeah, but I mean, they were showing signs of what the hell's going on type thing.
The prior couple of years with all that.
Well, true, but I'm just saying, even on track. I mean, it's not like they were putting up blistering results even before Indy. I mean, Will Power was clearly the best, but there was something missing even before May, and then it was tremendously exacerbated by what happened in May. But I think they bounce back next year. It may not be quote unquote vintage Penske, but they're not going to get shut out in wins next year either.
Yeah, so, I agree. A couple other notes from Laguna Seca. Christian Rasmussen was Mr. Excitement once again. A good race from him. We've seen him do it on ovals, but this is one of the few times we've seen him do it on a road and street course this season. And he's fun to watch. And he's also beating his teammate, which I think a lot of people didn't expect going into the year. I mean, he's easily beating his teammate at this point.
Yeah, very impressive with what we've seen out of Christian Rasmussen, and maybe we saw signs of it last year, but we've said it. You want to see progress year to year, and we've definitely seen progress of Christian Rasmussen. And I think it's another team with ECR that you look at how that team is set up, and you're going, I don't know if they make any changes going into next year. Christian Rasmussen has taken that next step. Alexander Rossi has kind of faded the last 5 or 6 races compared to what he did in the first part of the season through Detroit Gateway, but year 2 with Rossi back next year, I think would be advantageous as well. So I think with the new investment into ECR, we knew it would take a little bit for them. I think year 2, you could see Christian Rasmussen compete for maybe a race win and a top 10 points finish.
For sure. TV rating 734,000, which all things considered, going head-to-head with an Indiana Fever game, granted no Caitlin Clark playing, and also obviously head-to-head with the Brickyard 400, which was rain delayed just in time for the IndyCar race to finish.
Was it a Fever game or the All-Star game?
Fever game.
Fever game? Okay.
Yeah. All-Star was a couple weeks ago.
I don't know.
But either way, you have to be actually happy with that number.
I expected worse.
I expected a lot worse. Probably 100,000 less is what I expected.
But also good crowd at the Brickyard too. I know some people like to, I don't know, throw shade because there's so many empty seats, but it's
ironically people are sitting in the shade.
Yeah,
because it's so hot.
But it's a unique venue that's just it's gonna look empty for everything other than the Indianapolis 500. That's just the way it is. And the announced crowd was what 70,000. Mm-hmm. Look, outside of Daytona and Talladega, that's bigger than any attendance for any IndyCar or any Cup race.
Yeah, I mean
how many
maybe
they get at Mexico City? I don't know.
Not that many. Yeah. Maybe the Bristol night race, but that doesn't draw anymore. Yeah. That's kind of the thing. A couple other stats.
That's why they got to have baseball games at Bristol.
Yes,
to fill
coming up this weekend. Reds and Braves. Excited for that. So Alex Palou with his 8th win. Last driver to win 8 in a season was Bourdais, as I mentioned, in 2007. Al Jr. won 8 in 94. Michael Andretti won 8 in 91. Mario won 8 in 66 and 67. And Tony Bettenhausen won 8 in 1951. Mario with 9 wins in 69, and AJ with 10 in 64 and 70. That stat courtesy of Apex IndyCar. And you talked about the Brickyard. Catherine Lake, 17th at the Brickyard.
Really? I didn't know that.
2 top 20 finishes and 5 Cup starts this year. Her best Indy 500 finish, 22nd in 2012. That from NASCARman_RR on Twitter/X. But she's a candidate to maybe try the double. So something to keep in mind for the future.
I'd like to see her back next year in the 500.
Yes.
At the very least.
For sure.
Missed opportunity, obviously, this year, but it's paid off for what she's been able to do on the Cup side this year.
Absolutely. If you agree or disagree with us, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of opinions based on the Fox Sports IndyCar investment, we'd love for you to interact with us. You can always find us on social media, IndyCar Podcast on Twitter/X, also on Instagram, on Facebook. Just search for New Track Record. You can email us, newtrackrecordpodcast@gmail.com. Send us your questions, comments, rants, concerns, what have you. You can support us via Patreon, patreon.com/newtrackrecord. Thanks to Xavier and others for their support. And as always, download on your favorite podcasting platform, whether that is Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We had a lot of entries for the mailbag this week, but we got to tighten it up, so apologize, not going to get to, would you rather have Indy 500 rating or series going over 1 million rating in Indy 500? So we can't really break that down. To me, it's going to be the Indy 500 only because that is the straw that stirs the drink, so to speak, for the series and IndyCar and advertising and TV deals and everything, right? If the 500's thriving, then IndyCar will always be able to get by. If it's the opposite, a lot more difficult.
Yes, and that was just putting out to have conversation, because I know there were several people who are like, well, we want both. I'm like, well, of course we want both, but I'm just saying.
One person said 1993 CART TV ratings, which I looked those up. Unbelievable.
Stupid high.
Unbelievable numbers, yes.
Well, it's interesting. Everything was higher back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I saw somebody sent me even, which is interesting, a 1989 top 30 shows, just regular TV shows in 1989.
There
and
were 4 or 5 channels then.
Yeah, and
actually not even. You had 3 plus PBS. You didn't even have Fox in 89.
Right, for sure. But you also had, you obviously didn't have Stream and all that. And people, less people had cable. Like the 30th was getting $18 million people watching per episode. Like it was just like stupid. Like everybody was watching TV back then. There was less options. But it was just a hypothetical. It was just thrown out for conversation. But yeah, of course we'd love to have both. We'd love to have NASCAR numbers. Right now, hell, we'd love to have F1 numbers for every race outside of the 500. But appreciate everybody chiming in. That was more just a conversation for the X machine, not the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Rate the race. How would you rate Laguna Seca?
I had it a 7.
Wow.
I think the racing lacked, particularly up front. Part of that is because Alex Palou is so dominant. But it just, for the first time, it felt like a proper IndyCar event. It just didn't feel like a filler on the West Coast, of which Sonoma felt like that for so long. Laguna Seca felt like that early on in the return. This just felt like, hey, look at all the people there. Like, it was exciting. So the racing can get better. It's better than Laguna Seca of old, but I had a 7. What about you?
I had a 6. I had to take away a full point just from the race control shenanigans. Thought that was ridiculous. Listeners went 7.55, so bullish on Laguna Seca. Usually I'm the one with the higher number or closest, but you with the high number. I was look. It's a cool track. It's a cool setting. It was not an entertaining race.
Yes, and you've always been a little bit more harsh on the race control.
Yes,
which is perfectly fine.
A couple tweets I do want to get to. This from Troxile just sent this to us. I discovered where Santino Ferrucci is rehabbing his sore hand, and it's a picture of Santucci Process Development, apparently a business in his parts. So you can look that up and maybe get some more details. I thought that was funny. Elsewhere, we had a couple other comments from Lynn _ IndyCar, great split era driver last week. I've heard of Matt before because of following Scott Dixon. Dixon was about a year or two ahead of Matt in the progression through the juniors in the area. In 1999, they raced in the same series. Dixon was second, Matt was third. That's last week's random split era driver of the week, right? And who was that again?
Last week was what the heck was his name?
Matt
Auckland. Matt Halliday. Matthew Halliday, yes.
And then Bill Hessa had this. If it's Vettel and he wants to run the 500, you should call F1 and cancel the Canadian GP, LOL. Talking about McLaren's unreal fourth driver they're set to test. And then Lynn pointing out that to me, the IndyCar had heavy advertisement for Iowa doubleheader in Kansas City. Okay, that's cool, but make sure you're also advertising in Des Moines. Right?
Yeah, that would help. We also forgot last week, Nick J. Fletcher gave us some details about the random split era driver of the week from 2 weeks ago, PJ Chesson.
Yes.
And he said, I was at Michigan for his first lights win. He came over the radio as he crossed the line and proudly belted, "Boys, I'm getting blank laid tonight," as he took the checkers. He also signed most of his autographs as, quote, PEEJ, for PJ with the P. And he also, because we talked about the tattoo that he got.
Yeah, of IMS, right?
Per Nick Fletcher, he got that tattoo drinking Coors Lights in the Alley Cat pen right in Gasoline Alley. I have a phenomenal photo that I took, taken on a disposable camera, obviously, of Tony George looking very disgusted at him doing this. He said he'd actually have to find it. He's also very close with Susie Weldon and the Weldon boys, as he's been a longtime close friend of the family, has helped the boys with their racing career. So thank you, Nick J. Fletcher, for chiming in, giving us those details on Mr. PJ Chesson.
Short mailbag this week. We'll quickly rattle through news and notes and get to our random split era driver of the week. Connor Zilich, I hope I said that right, open to trying the Indy 500. I would love to race in the Indianapolis 500. Grew up watching it on TV, and in my opinion, it's the biggest race in the world. And as a race car driver, you want to win those races. This would be huge. He's probably going to be in NASCAR Cup Series next year. He's a phenom, basically, running in Xfinity and has just dominated any series he has been in over the years.
But he's going to get ensconced in Cup before he's messing around with the double. That's
for sure. There's some testing at Portland ahead of the race next weekend. Andretti drivers there, and Andretti revealing today Sam's Club going to be the sponsor for Kyle Kirkwood's number 27 machine for the IndyCar season finale at Nashville.
Hey.
So that's another big consumer brand sponsor.
For sure.
For Portland and Lights, Nicholas Montero will join HMD Motorsports as one of their drivers. Also, don't forget Felix Rosenquist, the Grateful Dead livery, will continue at Portland.
Which is nice because it didn't get much airtime.
No, it did not. Just disappointing indeed, but so we'll get a second chance at that. In the mailbag, we talked about Prima, their success. Marshall Pruitt, Racer.com, saying there were apparently rumors back in May, I'm sure prior to Indy 500 qualifying, that they were going to leave the series.
That's not
like
right,
you just
right?
got here. Obviously, that's not correct, but
it could have been. I mean, they're 2 months in.
Exactly. That was one of the notable things from the mailbag. There wasn't a whole lot to take away this
outside
week.
Of the normal complaining.
Yeah, complaining, and obviously, Laguna Seca, they're probably going to have to shift that schedule due to the marine layer issues that they had this year for practice sessions.
I guess, but whatever. I don't know. Okay, so you had an issue with practice too, but look at the crowd. Why move it? if you're gaining something.
Well, moving.
Oh, the time.
Yeah,
I got
the time. Yeah.
I follow. Sorry, I was
Yes.
not on board with.
Yes. Got to move the time just to make sure it. You
got to get the helo there, folks.
Yeah, for safety purposes. Otherwise, there's really not a whole lot else to get to. Let's get to tweets of the week. First, Rinus VeeKay had posted the video of him getting punted by Kyle Kirkwood. Said, a good day ruined by someone else's mistake. We showed really good pace until that moment. Eyes forward to Portland. And Kyle Kirkwood said, it's a shame someone would put someone's mistake on socials like this. Yes, I misjudged someone hitting the brakes 70 feet earlier in the previous lap. Sorry, I take full blame, although that's impossible to judge.
Oh, I love it.
And then Scott McLaughlin, commenting on the video of the crash involving Kiffin Simpson and Felix Rosenquist at the start, said, yo, just throwing it out there, I didn't hit the 8 on lap 1 as much as it looks like I did. Even my engineer, Ben Bretzman, thought I did. And he posted the Homer Simpson gif of him going back into the bushes,
yes.
Disappearing act. Thought that was funny. And then one other, this from Go David Hunt. I have no words, none. It's all so exhausting to see. And it's a sponsored post, I think, on Facebook of a hotel near the Nashville Super Speedway talking about, well, we're getting ready for the Music City GP, Labor Day weekend, blah, blah, blah. And it's a picture of Max Verstappen's F1 car.
Really?
Yes.
I know there is some concern within IndyCar that Nashville is going to be Iowa 2.0 in terms of crowd with the withdrawal of the promoter, which was what the Music City
big machine.
Yeah, Big Machine,
which is still it's now Borchetta Bourbon. It's the same guy, just different brand.
Yeah, I just don't think the ad revenue there is as much, the investment. So we'll see. We're hoping not, because it was a pleasant surprise last year.
For sure. And Milwaukee looks good, which is obviously a surprise as well.
Hey.
All right, let's wrap it up with our random split air driver of the week.
All right, so we're going into pre-split, but this guy never officially started a race in kart post 1996, but was heavily rumored. Okay, and we're going to go with Frederick Ekblom. Remember Frederick?
I think I've actually heard that name.
Yeah, me too. He made 13 starts in Indy Lights in 1992 and 93. He then made 3 starts in kart for 3 different teams and entered in the 94 and 95 Indianapolis 500. But after passing rookie orientation in 1994, he never appeared or practiced either year, which I found really, really puzzling. But he was with McCormack in 94. He was with Foyt in 95, and he was with Walker Racing in 96. And he was heavily rumored for 1997 in kart, particularly with the split. But as a lot of people will remember, the majority of the heavy hitters stayed in kart, at least initially. So there was talk about bringing him back for teams like Walker Racing, but they had a guy named Gilles de Ferran that was racing.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah, it was decent. So while there was rumors that Frederick Ekblom was going to return to Walker Racing in 1997, the fact that his majority of his experience was at Indianapolis, of which, kart didn't compete, wasn't on the schedule, made that go away. So,
but they brought him in for the other 500-mile race.
They did. How about that? So, Frederick Ekblom is his career, though. Looking at his career overall, he did some GP racing after his opportunities in kart, and just didn't really get a chance to get back into the seat post split, at least with either kart or IndyCar. He did Swedish Touring Championship. I know you have a lot of those VHS tapes hidden away. Europe. He did a lot of touring cars after that. I can't find, however, his Indy Lights standings or how well he did in Indy Lights. So if anybody has that information, let us know. But,
is it on Racing Reference?
Let's check. Let's do this. We're going to see if we can find Racing Reference, Frederick Ekblom, 1994 results, driver search. We're going through here, Racing Reference. Let's do career statistics. He is from Sweden, though. So, could he have been a guy that impacted, current Swedish drivers?
Could be.
IndyCar?
Knows? I think Kenny Brack is the number one influence, obviously.
Yes,
in that.
obviously.
He was involved in the opening, in the pace lap crash in the US 500 in 1996, made repairs or switched to a backup car for the restart.
Whoops. Yeah. Oh, that's right. That
yes.
I remember because they would allow wrecked cars to get the backups ready.
Except Adrian Fernandez, who has started second and not able to continue.
Yeah, because that's fair. But yeah, in his Indy Lights career, 1992 and 1993, he led 0 laps over the course of those 2 seasons, had 0 wins, 2 podiums. He did 2 races in 1992, 11 of 12 in 1993 as a 22-year-old, and had 2 podiums and no race wins. So other than that, Frederik Ekblom, while he was heavily rumored, I think even I saw while doing some research, because for some reason I could not find anybody this year. I really have to sit down and see who else we have with the random split era drivers of the week. Because
for 96 in kart?
No, I'm saying for overall.
Oh, okay.
Because I was having a struggle. So I went with Ekblom because he did test or was scheduled for a test with Walker Racing for that 1997 season. I don't know if he ever did or not. I couldn't find proof. But a native of Kumla, Sweden, where Marcus Ericsson from? Is it the same?
Yes. Same city.
Thought so. So Kumla, Sweden, the same home of current IndyCar driver Marcus Ericsson, the native home for Frederik Ekblom, this week's Random Split Era Driver of the Week.
All right, that does it for us this week. We'll be back next week. Who knows? Maybe we'll have another crazy announcement to break down as well.
Who's going to buy the other third of IndyCar and IMS? Who knows?
Who knows? But for Justin Kinney, I'm Caleb Hatch. This has been New Track Record Podcast.